Hi everyone, welcome back to StyleNovice and welcome to my Quilting for Beginners where we learn a block a week. If you've just joined us and you haven't yet checked out my introductory video, I'll link that below. This will explain what materials, fabric and tools you will require throughout the next few weeks. So let's jump straight into our first quilt block. We're going to be making a friendship star block using standard squares and half square triangles. Half square triangles are one of the most simplest and most versatile patterns, so be sure to keep watching. To make this block you will need two coloured fabrics of your choice and white fabric. Step 1 is cutting your fabric. So using your rotary cutter, cutting mat and a quilting ruler, remove the selvage lines from your fabric, giving you a straight line from which to base your measurements. A pattern fabric such as polka dots or stripes can help on this occasion by following the lines of the design. In one colour, and in this case I have used the red and white polka dot, you'll need 4 squares at a size of 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches. You'll need one more square that same size but in a second colour, and this is the square that's going to feature in the centre of the block. And to make our half square triangles you'll need another coloured fabric. Again I'm using my red and white polka dot, and my white fabric you're going to need 2 of each colour in 5.5 by 5.5 inches. Step 2 is marking out your half square triangles. Lay one of your large white fabric squares on your work surface, good side facing up in a diamond position. On top of this, place one of your large coloured squares, good side facing down. Using a marker and quilting ruler, rule a line from the tip of the top corner to the tip of the bottom. And pin on each wing of the diamond shape. Repeat for the 2 remaining large squares. Step 3 is sewing your half square triangle. So on your sewing machine, sew a line 1/4 inch from the centre line on the right. Sew another line 1/4 inch from the centre line on the left. The centre line itself remains unsewn. And remember to backstitch at each end. Step 4, cutting and ironing your half square triangles. So back to your cutting mat, cut down the centre line of each diamond shape. And open to reveal 2 half square triangles per original diamond. Open all seams and iron flat. Step 5 is trimming your half square triangles to the size we actually require. Now we need to trim these new shapes to their final size of 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches. Your first cut sets the size and your second cut squares up the squares so all sides are even and each half is its own coloured triangle. Overhanging seams at the corners will also need to be trimmed. Step 6, this is the fun part, this is arranging your pattern. So in this case, to make our friendship star, our coloured square is going in the centre. Our plain standard squares are going in each corner, and our half square triangle squares are arranged to form the shape of our friendship star within the centre. Step 7 is sewing your block together. Divide your pattern into 3 rows of 3 and sew each of these pieces into their own row using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Align the pieces as you want to sew them, iron them to press them together and pin if needed before sewing. As each row is completed, open all the seams and iron flat. Then it's simply a matter of sewing your 3 rows together to complete the block. Again, iron them together so they're less likely to move as you're sewing. Make certain all seams align and pin heavily before you sew, again with your 1/4 inch seam allowance. Open and iron all seams as you go. Remember that when this block is sewn into the final quilt using again a 1/4 inch seam allowance, the fabric around the edges will be taken up, so don't worry if there's any space above the points of your triangles at this stage. That is what we want. Leave them as is without trimming them off, and I'll be back next week for our second block. Do make sure to be subscribed so you're the first to know when new blocks go live.